I'm here to talk about the future of design. And first I want to give you a little bit of context in terms of who I am, who we are. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Design Exchange, we're Canada's only museum dedicated exclusively to design, and that's design within all of its disciplines, so everything from interior, graphic, fashion, industrial, and so forth. 5 years ago, we repositioned and we relaunched as a design museum offering programs that have a broad public appeal. We believe that design shouldn't be in the silos of professionals, it shouldn't be in the silos separated from other creative disciplines, but rather it's really about experiencing it on a wide scale. So we do all kinds of exhibitions, design programs, competitions, different types of events where we demonstrate how design is important and relevant to everyday life. I would say that a highlight for me over the last several years was working with Pharrell Williams. As most of you know, he's a big performer, producer, and Pharrell came to us and through a mutual friend and agreed to curate an exhibition for us about designer toys and urban vinyl. And he did it completely pro bono for us. And now why would one of the world's most highly paid, successful performers in the world agree to do something pro bono? Because he felt that design and contemporary art were actually not accessible to a broad audience. He felt that many people are intimidated to walk into a museum or a cultural institution or an art gallery for that matter. And this was a way in which to dispel those ideas and to really make it accessible. I knew he was right when I received numerous telephone calls from young people asking us what the dress code was, because they simply had never been to a museum before. And it was that kind of thinking and that kind of attitude that really started to inform how we positioned and talked about design and did our programming. At the same time, we were starting to work on a design festival. There are lots of design events around the world that the design industry goes to. It was important for us, once again, to create something that was accessible to a broad audience. So we talked about doing all these cool things with technology and innovation and creating this really cool, exciting experience. But it really wasn't until I received a one-line email from one of my directors on my board, that was a one-line email that simply was a URL that was www.globalgoals.org, that changed the direction of not only the festival, not only the direction of the institution, but my own personal thinking about the real power and opportunity for design. So I'm going to show you now the video that was part of that URL that took us on this new direction.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone. Everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We
will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere
lives in extreme poverty.
where no one
goes hungry.
where no one
Wakes in the morning asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure.
And where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
Where everyone
goes to school. And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive and be powerful and safe.
We cannot succeed if afterwards we We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
and proper toilets
at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where there's
sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light,
and power for the whole planet.
without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper and new wealth
lead to decent jobs for everyone. And we will live in a world where our industry,
Our infrastructure and our
best innovations
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
We will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated inside our countries and between different countries.
Where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
And support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
what we consume.
Planet where we put pride.
What we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back from climate
change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
Restore
and protect
life on land.
The forests.
Animals,
the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
and the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where
all countries and we their people.
Work together.
In partnerships of all kinds.
To make these goals a reality.
These are the United Nations Global Goals
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work. Let's make it happen.
So how many of you are familiar with the UNDP's Global Goals for Sustainable Development? Show of hands. Got a couple of you here. Excellent. So for me, this was a really important moment. I, at that point, was not familiar with the goals and saw the video, and I have to confess that the hair on my arm still stands up every time I see it. But there were two things that I took away from this video. One was that clearly, these challenges will never be met if we don't all work together. It's a question of governments, corporate, and people to all come together that will make these things happen. Second, what the video showed me was that they were all design challenges. I believe that if we apply innovative thinking, creative thought, and throw in a dash of courage in that, we will be able to solve challenges like the ones outlined here. Even if we look at the situations that we deal with today in Canada, whether it's issues around affordable housing or issues that are faced by our Indigenous communities on a daily basis, again, whether it's housing, access to food, and so forth, I would argue that design with innovation and technology can address these goals. I would argue that design can be a catalyst for positive change. And so this, to us, is the new definition of design. Design has the ability to create tremendous social impact. Sure, design is still about beauty. It's still about a great handbag or a fantastically new luxurious car or a great iPhone. But what if that iPhone could be used to have an app that transports blood by drone to communities in Rwanda? What if that handbag had a portable medical kit for communities in northern Canada, and so forth? And so I'm going to show you a little bit about what we think design is and what the capacity and strength of an opportunity for design is today. Here are a few examples of some of my favorite projects. This is Boyan Slat. He's 19 years old. He discovered a way in which to create an artificial barrier reef to clean the oceans of plastic. He was a big scuba diver, was constantly being bombarded, literally, with plastic, and came up with this idea. And Ocean Cleanup will launch in early 2018, and within 5 years, they predict that all of the ocean's plastic will be reduced by 50% and completely removed within 10 years. This is a project by an architect named Sue Fujimoto. It's in Paris. It's called 1,000 Trees. It's the idea that we can bring green living back to our urban centers, because certainly today we're struggling with that balance. This is a project by Terraform out of New York. It's this fantasy kind of approach to what could the greenest New York look like. Certainly very green and very exciting. This is two projects that we have side by side here. The one on the left is by Foster and Partners with NASA, and basically it's a project where the cars power the road powers the cars. On the other side, we have a project that's a prefab, off the grid, completely sustainable home that also powers the vehicle that's adjacent to it. This, of course, is Elon Musk's Hyperloop. We all know the story that it's an open source opportunity for people to compete to be part of this program. This is Massimo Bottura's Refetterio. As you may know, Massimo Bottura is a world-famous chef, and what he did was he designed this beautiful experience during Expo Milan and during the Rio Olympics where homeless people could come and have food. The food that they were eating was being prepared from the leftovers of food from the restaurants that day, and all created with some of his friends who are some of the biggest designers in the world to create a really beautiful environment and space. This is Dan Rozegaard's Smog Tower. He's a Dutch designer who has created this tower that literally cleans the air of smog. There is currently one in Beijing. I saw him last week, and he told me that the response from countries all over the developing world has been insane, and even within the developed world. So there's a huge demand for that project. This is a really fun project, and it demonstrates that you don't really need to be a big designer to achieve something. Achilles Souris is 15 years old. He did a fun architecture program at Columbia University in the summer, and he went back to his native Greece, and he created shelters made out of life preservers from Syrian refugees that had been washed up on the shore. We actually will be showing this in the project I'll talk about shortly. Detroit Empowerment Plan is a group that's created a shelter that also, a coat rather, that also turns into a sleeping bag for the city's homeless. This is a project by Google Glass with Philips IntelliVue software. The idea is that as a surgeon is operating on a patient, he or she can actually see the patient's vitals right in front of them rather than having to turn away when operating. Design, technology, innovation can obviously be used to create empathy. This is a project by Verse that was done in conjunction with UNICEF. And the idea is that when you put the VR goggles on, you literally feel like you are in a refugee Syrian camp. They're using it to raise funds for refugees, but certainly a way in which to create empathy and beyond just using technology for fun. Fogo Island, you might be familiar with this project. The Fogo Island Inn was created by Zita Cobb. Zita was originally from Fogo Island, a very small community, less than 5,000 people in Newfoundland. And she went off, made billions of dollars, and then came back to invest in her community and in her town. And she created this beautiful hotel with Todd Saunders, who is originally from Newfoundland, now lives in Norway. What's interesting about this project is that she worked with all local craftspeople, local artisans. The boat makers were taught how to use their expertise to create architecture. The people who were weavers wove the blankets and all the needs for the inn. And now this inn is ranked as one of the top 5 inns around the world and is definitely one of the most sought after locations to vacation around the planet. This is a project by Effect out of Denmark, and the idea behind that is that it's a community that is completely 100% self-sustaining, so everything that the community needs can be found within the community. And now, my favorite project of recent, I want to share with you, and we have one last video.
Rwanda is known as the land of 1,000 hills.
It is a very difficult country in terms of topography, and many areas are hard to reach.
Traversing that terrain to get to a rural village can take hours, even though it's a very short distance.
Today, if a mother is giving birth and suffers from postpartum hemorrhaging, her life is dependent on getting a blood transfusion.
There are many different types of blood types. They have a limited shelf life. And the challenge is when you need blood, you need it immediately. But it is unpredictable which geography that will occur in.
Hospitals that are in more remote areas can have a very hard time getting enough reliably supplied blood.
The time to order and get the supplies by truck is just too late.
There's no way that we can overcome the time that it takes to get anywhere during the rainy season. And people would say, okay, during the rainy season, we're just not going to make it.
The best case scenario, it would take at least 4 hours. But with Zipline, we are looking at cutting that 4 hours to something like 15 minutes.
It is a team of Rwandese who came together with Zipline to groom the project and to make it happen in Rwanda.
Their ultimate vision is to put each and every one of those 11 million citizens within a 15 to 35-minute delivery of any essential medical product that they could need. And that's a revolutionary idea for any country in the world.
The use of drones to deliver life-saving medical products can overcome the lack of road infrastructure. We need to let our imagination soar.
When you have a commodity, rare end supply, that might be an unusual blood type or something like a rabies vaccine, and you need it immediately, the idea that we could use a drone to be able to deliver this to the country is absolutely brilliant. There's nothing else that could do that in that way.
It is like we will no longer go around the hills, but we fly over the hills.
We've pulled together a team from places like Boeing, SpaceX, Google, Lockheed Martin.
And it's an honor for Zipline to partner with the government of Rwanda.
We place a hub next to an existing medical warehouse, and it instantly enables that warehouse to make hundreds of deliveries per day to any location within range.
The doctor sends us their order by text, by phone call, whatever's convenient.
Somebody identifies the need and then prepares the package, puts it on the drone.
And then we take that vehicle and we put it through pre-flight tests. It's launched, it flies automatically out to the clinic.
The path has been already calculated, it's in the computer.
And then they'll receive a text message saying, Zip is 2 minutes away, please walk outside.
It drops the packet, somebody goes and collects it.
It turns around, it flies home, and then we get it ready for the next delivery.
Our service not only makes it possible, but also affordable for countries to deliver reliable access to essential medicines for all of their citizens.
what we are looking forward to see here is saving lives.
This isn't a small step forward. This is a transformational change to how we provide medical care to people across the world.
I'm always so excited to feel people's response to that video. My 12-year-old daughter, every time she watches it, she always says her favorite part is when he says, we now no longer have to go through the mountains, we can go over the mountains. And she just lights up, and I think it really speaks to the power of design, innovation, and technology. So what are we all about? What is Design Exchange about? What do we think the future of design is all about? For us, it's important for us to demonstrate the power of design, innovation, and technology to change the world for better for everyone. We believe that design can be a catalyst to positive change. We believe that design deserves a seat at the table, should have a seat at the table when discussing these very important challenges and issues that we're facing as a planet. So what are we doing with all that? We're launching a design expo. It's called EDIT, which is the acronym for Expo for Design, Innovation, and Technology. It also refers to the fact that it's an edited, curated experience. We're running it this fall, September 28th to October 8th. And we decided to do it at a very important time. It's Canada's 150th anniversary, as well as Ontario's 150th anniversary. And we want to speak about the future, the next 150 years. What will the future of Canada, the future of our province look like in 150 years? And we think innovation, design, and technology is a big part of that. So we'll be looking at how the intersection of those three things work together to make the world a better place for all people. And so when I saw that video that I showed you earlier with the global goals, it inspired me enough to contact the UN, and I went to meet with them in New York, and I remember standing in front of the UN thinking, what am I doing here? And had a great meeting with the person there and told them all about our project and all about what we're hoping to achieve, and asked the UN to partner with us on EDIT, and they said yes. And so EDIT is in partnership with the United Nations Development Program, and it's inspired and informed by the 17 global goals for sustainable development, and we've chosen the theme of prosperity for all. And so we'll be creating an immersive experience. It's 10 days. We'll be doing an interactive experience that has all kinds of exhibits, features, speakers programs that all highlight the global goals and all highlight the projects, some of the projects that I've shown you recently. We're doing a whole series of curated exhibits. Bruce Mao, who's a big global thinker who works with the major corporations and governments around the world to institute and implement design thinking, will be curating the main exhibit on prosperity for all. And he'll be working with Paolo Pellegrin, who's a magnum photographer. Shelter in Cities will be curated by Carlo Ratti, who is from the Sensible City Lab at MIT, looking at how we're integrating nature back into our cities combined with technology. Care is being curated by Julie Lynn Wong, who's a Toronto-based engineer, doctor, technologist. Julie Lynn's latest project is called 3D for MD, where people will have the ability to 3D print prosthetics anywhere in the world. Most recently, she's 3D printed prosthetics on the space station. She also is the one that shared the zipline project with us. Educate's being curated by Kentaro Toyama, the author of Geek Heresy, a book that dispels the idea, or that explains the idea, that when we design for people in the developed world, those people have to be part of the conversation and they have to be part of the solution. Nourish is being curated by the Jamie Oliver Foundation. We all know Jamie Oliver, of course, is a big celebrity chef, but Jamie also has an advocacy line, a part to his business and what he does, that looks at food sovereignty and looks at obesity, sugar tax, and all that kind of stuff. So Jamie's quite excited about this project. We're working with all kinds of consulates, education institutions, universities, colleges, and a whole bunch of programming partners like Next City, like Actua, like the Breakout project, and so forth, to create this very interactive, immersive experience. I see lots of students here. We have a youth day on October the 4th where admission is free to all schools. So lots of programming for people of all ages. So exhibits, performances, talks, all kinds of interactive experiences, and really ultimately the idea is that we want the visitors coming to EDIT to leave inspired about the role of design, to understand that they too can be part of the solution, to understand that design is a catalyst for positive change and for making the world a better place. Two of my favorite quotes I'll finish off with. Stephen Hawking, never before has there been more innovation, never before has it done more damage, and never before can it do so much good. And last week, we had our press conference to launch Edit, and Bruce Mao was at the conference, and he said this, which I thought was brilliant. This is the greatest time in human history to be alive. Connection and collaboration across borders, fences, and religions. That is the idea of our time, and that is the culture of design thinking. So, I think that comes to the end of our presentation, and I hope that you'll join us in this journey, in this challenge to make the world a better place and to think about design within a different context. That yes, it is about beauty and it is about the beautiful things in your life, but there is an opportunity for design to have a seat at the table and really implement important change.